Thank you for being
Girl. Come on, up here. Come on.
And you are good to go.
Okay, and I'm trying to find the agenda again. Sorry, I'm just doing double screens here. Okay, so we'll call the meeting to order for our January 11th meeting. First up on the agenda is approval of minutes from the 12/14/2020 meeting. Does anyone want to make a motion to approve, or does anyone have questions or concerns?
I move the minutes be approved as presented.
Second it.
Great. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Great. So next up is topics from the floor. So we'll address that first. We have a lot of people on the line today. So if you would like to speak, I would like to request that you raise your hand so we can see it through the Zoom meeting. And if you're not able to do that, unmute and we will try to take you one at a time. So Mike, you are up first. Go ahead and unmute yourself if you can.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can. Hello.
Good. Good. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. Procedurally, are we allowed to dialogue or do we just make a presentation? How does this work on this scenario?
Typically, we have people, typically we try to keep people under 5 minutes
Yeah.
of just speaking. And then after you've said what you want to address, then sometimes we'll have conversation about it. If it gets pretty complex, typically we'll try to take it offline or handle it on a separate agenda item in the future if needed.
Good. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's good. I appreciate it.
We aren't super formal, but try to keep things on track.
Yeah, no, very good. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
The reason I'm calling, I'm over here with River Club Estates and speaking somewhat on behalf of the board. I believe there's other board members and or constituents that will probably chime in at down the line there.
Okay.
What Christmas week, got up in the morning and found the public works sector down here installing signage right behind the house on the property line. And it's caught us completely off guard. We weren't advised of it, aware of it. And we're trying to find an understanding as to what has transpired to generate the signs, which don't seem to be located anyplace else in the refuge area. I'm not sure, have you actually physically seen the signs that were installed?
I have not seen the signs, but I've heard about them, and I'm sure
Yeah.
others have seen them.
Very tall, intrusive traffic signs, large in our face. Completely take away from the ambience of that beautiful property back there that we've all worked so hard to maintain. And we're trying to get a good foundation as to what brought that on. They're almost strategically placed. In fact, I'm looking at the one off of my deck and it's staring right into my living room. And it's almost like it was strategically placed in front of the individual houses in some kind of a punitive form. So it's left us scratching our head as to what really has transpired here. I'm not sure if you can answer that real quick, or do we have to just continue with the dialogue? Or even if you've got the information to answer it with.
I don't have all the background information to answer it with, and I'm not sure that commission members would. I think it might be a conversation to have with Public Works offline, but I will let anyone else on the commission or on city staff chime in.
Do you know where it initiated from, the placement of the signage?
Mohammed can
Yes.
speak to that without a doubt.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Mike, for your concern. So I did
Sure.
have a chance to meet with my public works supervisor, actually, and we had run some investigation. We went there to the site. We took pictures of the sign. So there is complete Just the background I have for you is those are no illegal dumping signs, right? There is a lot of individuals, we don't know obviously who and where and when, but been dumping stuff into this area you see the signs are currently from. So that's what initiated the reason to have these signs where they are currently.
Mhm.
So in regards to the sign type, right, there are a lot of, someone mentioned along the line when we were in the field, one of the neighbors came in and mentioned that, the coloring could have they been something more on the brown side, like the one that used in the park. Currently, this type of sign, according to city ordinance and zoning, they're required to be a particular color simply because the type of the sign is like when you see a stop sign that are always in red. So there's a specific reason for those sign colors. Right?
Mhm. Mhm.
The reason, as I mentioned again, is there's stuff has been dumped into that area, which is a city property. And that's why these signs are up to prevent any person.
The dumping, is that coming from River Club Estates homeowners or
Well, we don't know. We don't know who's dumping stuff there, but I assume
where was it located? Do you know?
we had several areas that they're kind of scattered around the area where you see the signs. So they were strategically put there for a reason because this is where most of the stuff has been dumped there. And that's becoming a responsibility and liability for the city to
Sure,
clean
sure,
up and pick those up. And now
sure.
there is a total of 4. So initially when I believe you or someone else raised this concern, I thought there was a lot more, right? So there are 4 specifically that's just were in there. So considerably not a lot of sign that I think of when you talk about a lot of them, right? Anything?
Well,
about-
no, it's, I think the placement initially, but let me back up on the
Yeah.
dumping. I'm concerned as you are. Just a real quick little history. For just over 20 years, the homeowners here at River Club Estates have been managing that property in its cleanliness, picking up, cleaning, the aesthetics behind it, maintaining it at the optimum wildlife foundation there. And we've spent over that period of time, literally thousands of dollars out of our own pocket to bring it to what it is right now, primarily knocking back or abating the blackberries as they grow so rapidly and choke that entire valley. So we have a real vested position in that property, which I think parallels where you guys are coming from. Nobody wants to see it dumped on, and we're not even aware of that. But what I'd like to offer up, instead of this signage situation, which we find really offensive, literally particularly as close as to the house, is that the River Club Estates board is a very active board. We have tools within the board, architectural review committee, view control committees, that once are made aware of a situation with a homeowner, we can take immediate action and penalize those parties accordingly. And I'm hoping that we can meet with you or further this and find a resolution to allow us, once we are made aware of it, that we can resolve these issues internally quickly and to make sure they don't happen again, rather than the signage that we presently have, set up in the backyard here. Is that something that you guys can consider, is letting us work with you and join with you to police this area, as we really historically have, to allow us to reconsider the removal of those signs?
So one thing I can tell you, Mike, I am flexible and open to the idea of policing this in a joint venture with the home association. However, 2 things you need to know. So the biggest challenge with this become is the monitoring and controlling and policing, because we don't know who, right? You cannot have, or we cannot have someone who's stationed there 24/7, obviously, to monitor and see if it's a neighbor who's throwing this, if it's a trespass, right, issue. This falls into the city property. So those signs are in the right of way. In fact, some of these backyards are in the right of way. One other option was, okay, you can put a fence there to make it protected and you don't have to worry about others, but that will be a lot worse than a sign sitting in the
Sure,
backyard.
yeah.
Potential, and again, this is from a liability issue, right? We need to also to protect the city property and make sure we are doing our jobs the way to protect our neighbors. And another thought was coming in, if these signs are a little taller than the average, which they're about, I believe, 7 feet tall, that could be reduced a little bit in size where it can come down, where it's not in the vision of someone sitting from the backyard.
Understand, now, keeping on that same theme, on the height, is it, and the consideration of lowering those, which we would appreciate, can we also relocate those to be a little further distant from the actual decks? I mean, we can walk out on our deck and literally 25, 30 feet from the deck, we're staring at the sign. It really takes away from the ambiance of the environment that we're looking at, which is really, an exceptionally beautiful area. Is there an option to sit there and reconsider also the relocation of those signs, something a little bit more subtle and removed further into the background?
In the interest of keeping this meeting just on par for the 5 minutes, I'm more than
Sure.
happy to consider other options. We can talk this offline, and you're welcome to stop by anytime, set up a meeting with myself, and we can go through a potential plan. And I'm not saying no, and I'm not saying yes, but it's a feasibility type of thing.
I appreciate that. Why don't I call your office and see if we can schedule a comfortable get together and further explore these thought options. Would that be okay?
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. That helps us a lot. I think we can find some common ground here once you can understand our side of it. And when we're not perfect, but we're here 24/7, 365. We've got eyes and ears on that backyard. And we really do. We are vested in that as much as you guys are. We want it pristine like you do. And if something is happening, particularly if it's something that we're initiating and not knowing it, we'll jump on that quick. Trust us. We can take care of it much faster than you guys can, and we'd be happy to do it. So let's let us, you and I, and possibly another person or two here from the community get together a little bit down the road there, and we can further explore this thought process. How's that?
You got it.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Carmen, before you go,
Thank you.
I
Yeah, just a second. I just want to say thanks to Mike and Mohammed, and then we have Kathy raising her hand as well, but I see you, Kathy, so let's let Jerry speak really quick and then we'll move on to you.
I'm
So
not
go
sure.
ahead, Jerry.
I'm not sure how quick this will be, but we want it to be a win-win situation for both the city, and the homeowners association.
Thank you.
And last week I had, a pretty long talk with Fred Love, who lives down in that area.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more issues than what was just brought up here just a second ago. So initially it was the signs, and I understand that. I mean, I wouldn't want those signs by my place either. But
Thank
there
you.
was a reason the city placed them there. And if the homeowners could monitor that, maybe we could, that could be worked out with Mohammed. That's, his call on that.
Sure.
But there has been, dumping by the neighbors there into the ODOT property. And that's one thing that, the people, the friends of the Dalton Lake Nature Preserve, they really don't want that happening. They
Totally
want that.
understand.
They want
Totally
that.
under-
They
Go
want
ahead.
that to be a nature area.
Totally understand, and we totally support that.
Jerry, maybe it makes sense for you to be in on the conversation with Mike and Mohammed,
Well,
or no?
I don't know, but I want to.
Okay.
I would like to finish what I have to say here, though.
Okay.
So everyone,
I would like to.
I think things need to be put out, in the front there. There were some native willow trees down there that have been cut, and my understanding is that the allegedly that the homeowners cut those willow trees down there to improve their view. I don't know if that's true or not, but
Can I make comment on that, Jerry?
sure.
Okay. Over our tenure of managing this property quietly, I have frequently gone to the city offices and updated them as to what we're doing. Are we okay? Can we do this? And the feedback from the city, this predates, this goes back 20 years, 15 years, 10 years, 12 years. And the thought process in the city was, as long as you're not upsetting your neighbors, it's fine with us. And I have gone down there again frequently to update them just out of courtesy. And this has always been the mindset. We have never been told that we cannot not do something. And yes, on occasion, about every 4 or 5 years, we've got some volunteer cottonwoods down there on the waterfront that start getting high enough. We'll do some thinning of the tops of them. And again, I presented that and nobody has refuted that in the past. So I want to make sure you understand we're not intentionally going to do something that we think or understand as being wrong. We have in fact run this thought process across the city people on several occasions, and they never have been told, no, you cannot not do that. So I just want to, make sure you fully understand it. If it can't be done, we're not going to do it.
And yeah, I mean, it needs to be a win-win situation.
Sure.
Another thing that was brought up in the conversation with Fred was the reed canary grass down there. And one of the things I said is, well, reed canary grass, it can be invasive. And the homeowners association he said was concerned that there could be fire damage. One of the things you might be able to mitigate all of this by maybe putting in lower native vegetation. And another issue, and I'll be quite honest, I was probably one of the few people that said this, but there was one of the homeowners allegedly planted a lawn and a hedge on ODOT property. My comment was, hey, I think we could grandfather that in, but I don't know how other people feel. So I know that one of the big issues here that's causing a lot of these discussions is, the Friends of Dalton Lake Nature Preserve. Now that they're a very active group, they want to see that to be as native as possible. And I understand how people want to, maintain their view, and hopefully this can all be worked out. That's all I have to say, Carmen.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry.
I would like to be on that meeting too with Mohammed.
Okay, thank you, Lynn. All right, let's move on to Kathy, who has her hand raised. Kathy, would you like to go ahead?
Yes, I am here as a Lions Club member and also just as a concerned citizen. There is a major flooding problem in McCormick Park. The north end of the exercise trail. Enough of that is underwater that there are 3 exercise stations that can't be accessed. There are ducks that have now made that area their temporary home, hopefully only temporary. And from my recollection, this seems to have gotten worse since the work was done on the BMX track. It didn't used to flood in there that badly in the winter until they did that work. So apparently something happened with the drainage when that work was done. But there are a lot of people that use that trail during all parts of the year, but especially during the winter. It's one of the few things that you can do, and now safely get out there and walk on that trail. People bring their dogs. Anytime I'm down there, I see a lot of people walking, using the exercise stations. So I'd like to see that problem addressed if possible.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. I don't know if anyone from Parks or Public Works has anything to add to that, except for taking that back to kind of review.
Carmen, could just note one thing. The weather report is for about 36 hours of heavy rain.
Just a second. Mohammed was talking to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Thank you.
All I was saying is that the weather report for the next 36 hours is for very heavy rain. And there's going to be more flooding than there is now.
Yeah, not going to be an immediate fix for sure. Mohammed, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, I was just saying I'm not aware of that issue, Kathy, so I took notes of it. I will make sure to look at it and we'll address it for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfect. And then I know we have someone else who has something to bring up, which is Shauna, about some trails. It's something that's not on the agenda, and we have Claire on as well. So if you guys want to go next, go for it.
Perfect, thank you. So I am excited for an opportunity that has came to us, and the idea actually came from, well, how I found out about it is through Gretchen, our youth librarian. So she went to a conference and they found out about these trails called Born Learning Trails, and they're actually through United Way. And so I talked to Claire to see if that is something that our United Way would be interested in doing with us. And she is taking it back to her board on Thursday for complete funding of these trails. So they're very similar to like what Storytime trails look like, but they're more for early learning, and they have different action items that you do when you get to the certain posts. So I'm going to bring up just a little picture here to show you what they look like. Can you all see this?
Yeah, we can see it.
Awesome. So this shows you what the trails would look like. And so, for instance, we would really love to put one over at McCormick Park. And I'm just coming today to kind of sprinkle this idea to everyone. And then after Claire goes to her meeting, if we have secured funding, then I'll come back as an agenda item to see if we can push it towards council. But if you look there, there's different posts here. So each one says like this one's a little hopscotch thing, and there's all sorts of different activities that you can do during them. So the cost for them is about a little under $2,000. So it's about $1,400. And so we're looking at getting this one installed at McCormick Park. And if we like them and want them at other parks, Claire thinks that we can also get funding for that. I did talk to Mohammed about what that looks like for installation. So I was going to work with Public Works to see how we could get those installed, but we thought this would be a really great opportunity, especially for having the new play structure there. And we already love our trails over there, and some ways that we can get some more fun engagement. So if you guys have any questions for me, Claire's here to answer them as well. And you can go to the website and it's under, what is it? www.bornlearning.org. And there's community videos. It looks like we might be the first one in Oregon to get one. I'm not for sure, but when I was looking at the map, it looked like that. So that's pretty exciting as well. So let me know if you have any questions. And like I said, Claire's here and we're available if you need to email us as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Shauna. Sherry, can we get that added to, should we add that to the agenda next time, Shauna?
Yeah, I think we'll be ready for the next meeting to actually have it pushed forward from there.
Okay, great.
And I did have an early learning meeting earlier today with like Head Start and a whole bunch of learning, early learning partners, and they are beyond excited for this. And there might be some funding opportunities.
Awesome. Does anyone have questions for Claire or Shauna about this?
Come on.
Nope. Okay. All right. I know we have a number. Thank you so much, Shauna, and thank you, Claire, for trying to get funding for this. That's awesome. We have a number of other folks on the line. If anyone is interested in doing public comment, please raise your hand, or if you're not able to do that, if you can unmute yourself, that would be great. I'll give it just a minute, see if there's anybody else before we move on.
Lay down. Lay down.
I am not seeing anything. So let's go ahead and move on to the next item. I was going to also mention that we have Mohammed on the line. I didn't realize that you would need to jump in so soon in the public comment period, but thank you for joining. We're happy to have you. And I don't know if you want to give any kind of intro or anything to the commission.
Yes, I would love, first of all, it's very nice to meet everyone in this commission. This is my first meeting with everyone, so it's great to meet you all. I believe I met Lynn kind of briefly in the past. Carmen, I've kind of, I think, one meeting with you, so it's great.
Yeah.
So happy to be here. So happy to be part of the City of St. Helens team and to really get down and work on making our community a better living place and do everything we can here in Public Works to provide the best and the world-class service for our citizens here in St. Helens. So I'm looking forward to kind of learn about every project and work with everyone. And, I'm here a resource for everyone. I have that open door policy. Any question comes in, you can get my information through any of the team members on the website.
Awesome. Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. So let's jump into counselor's report. Doug. You're on mute. Doug, you're muted. We can't hear you.
That was
There we
probably
go.
that was probably a blessing. So I'm very happy to be here. I could imagine that I was probably going to end up with the police department or possibly the library or planning. I didn't know, but I was very happy that and encouraged that the mayor wanted the status quo of myself on the with the Parks Commission. I'm privileged. I'm very privileged to be with you folks. So and very encouraged. I did give Sherry a call because I know that there are things that are falling through the cracks from when you recommend something on the Parks Commission and to the point that it gets delivered to the council. And especially the important recommendations, we don't want those things to get fall to pieces before they even get to the council. So you know, it was a kind of thing. Is the staff was Sue going to deliver some of those kinds of messages to the staff and to the council in her report, or is it up to me? It's up to me. Okay, so Sherry sometimes communicates with Kathy Payne, our city recorder, who puts the items on the agenda. And if I don't see them on the agenda, then I will have to report what, you know, the remainder of those of what's going on. And Sherry has been so kind to say, hey, anything that we miss, anything that you miss or you don't have, she'll send me an email. So any apologies for things that slipped through the cracks, getting to the council. I know we worked diligently on the urban trail, and I feel so good. I just feel elated about that. So many things are happening in our parks with new projects. It's amazing. So I feel really good about all those things that are going forward. So if something happens on the parks and it doesn't get mentioned in a at all in a council meetings, please email me anything that's important. I will include in my report. Okay, you can do that individually as well. Just remind me, make certain that there is some concern about some issue. And talking about issues, I was so glad that Mohammed and Public Works did go down to take a look at the signage when we first heard some pushback or some feedback from our friends in Columbia City, our neighbors, that we indeed are hopefully reaching out to and resolving any issues that we might have about signage and about property lines and whatever. What did really spur this, I think is not totally the friends of the preserve. It did a bit because I know that Lynn went down to Columbia City, and she can talk about this a bit more in her report. She did go to Columbia City. She did go to the city council. She invited me to come along on the second time around, and she wanted to do it again. And I thought, wow, you've already been there once, and it seems like no one showed up or whatever. And hopefully, maybe the second time, well, we talked about it, whether it was timely or not. So there has been an effort to reach out, and especially to the community group, to their neighborhood association. And I know that Lynn did that. I know that she made efforts to do that and talk to officers in that group. So there has been reach out, but what really spurred this was and Lynn can help me with this a bit, was the salmon rehab program that has come about from a grant through Bonneville. And they got, correct me if I'm wrong, Lynn, $850,000 grant, I believe, to create salmon habitat in Dalton Lake. And one of the issues was to remove the culvert so that it would be more of a natural flow of tidal waters. And as you know, the Columbia River rises and falls depending on what season it is. And there is also tides do affect that area. But what spurred this on was we had environmentalists from all over the state there for a meeting about what they were going to do and their conceptual plan. And so several of those individuals ventured over into the area where the signs are in that area, and they were appalled at the cutting. Somebody took a brush hog in there and cut about a swath about 35, 40 feet wide of supposedly grass that contributes to the rehabilitation of salmon. And that's what I understood. So I didn't go look at the type of grass that was there that got cut down to, but I did see the area that was cut. And then I think we followed up with talking to Public Works of, hey, we know we need to get a survey down there because no one knew where the property lines were. Our Public Works knew kind of about where they were, but I thought it was more important to get a specific survey done so we knew exactly where that line was. And then that way we can go forward with resolving the issue. I did think that communication was extremely important with not only the neighborhood association, but with Columbia City in general. I did call up the mayor at one time and spoke briefly, and this was, nothing got resolved. I just tried to make some awareness of the issue of what Dalton Lake Nature Preserve is all about. So I'm glad that this is getting resolved. Mohammed, thank you for being here at this meeting, and I know that we can go forward and resolve this issue somehow with future meetings. And I'm excited to be part of this group and improve my performance in terms of taking all your concerns to the council. And that's pretty much my report. I'm just glad to be here.
We're
Thank
glad
you,
you're here
Doug.
too, Doug.
Yep, happy to have you back.
Thanks.
John, did you have a question? You're muted. I see your hand and I see you talking. maybe. Give him just a minute. All right. We will let you chime in when you're able. Oh, can you hear us, John? Okay, we will come back to John. In the meantime, let's move on to new business. First up, we have electing officers. So I think in the past, we had talked about having the vice chair move to chair. Elisa, your vice chair, is it vice chair? Am I saying the right title for that? Yeah, okay.
So, yeah.
Now, are you still interested in being chair this next year?
I mean, I can be, but if you want to stay chair, I'm very okay with that too.
Well, if you don't want to be chair, then we can put it out to see who is interested in being chair, and then we can figure out who wants to be vice chair, if that works. So up to you.
Carmen, I have a comment on this.
Okay.
You know, one of the things Doug implemented a few years ago, and I thought it was really a great idea, is that we rotated through the chairman position.
Yep.
And I've been on the planning commission, I've been on the arts and cultural commission, and you go there and you have, you know, the kind of like in Congress where someone goes there and you're there for 20 years and things don't change. Carmen, I think you've done, this is not against you, Carmen.
No, I totally understand.
Carmen, I think you've done a super, super job, but I really do like the idea of rotating leadership. I just think it's just made this commission so much more enjoyable for me to be able to deal and see how other people, everyone's leadership is different, you know, everyone that goes through it. But I think they've all been effective. Maybe yours is the most effective, Carmen, but they've all worked.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's good to rotate just to share the knowledge, because I mean, I know I learned things being chair that I wouldn't have learned if I weren't chair. So I am happy to rotate. So Elisa, if you're not interested in being chair, then we can put it out to see who is and who would be interested in vice chair.
Yeah, I'd like to see Lisa just move on up and select another vice chair.
But if she doesn't want to do it, we're not going to force her to do it. We still want her to be involved and not forced.
I think you can open it up and see if someone else wants to. I mean, if no one else does, I will, but.
Okay, that's fair. So who else is interested in being chair?
Who hasn't been chair yet?
I don't know the past list of those who haven't. So is anyone interested in being chair?
Well, John and Lynn, of the people that are here, haven't been chair.
John or Lynn, are you interested?
No, I'm not interested in this time because I've got a lot coming up next year, actually, with Dalton, what's going on and other things.
I certainly, as a council person, would really like to see the status quo of what we've got on with the council's understanding that it would reciprocate in that pattern. And I would really encourage Elise to step forward and be the chairman. But that's me. It's just my voice, which doesn't count. And I just wanted to share that.
Well, it looks like I might be if no one else wants to.
Carmen, are you interested in being the chair one more year?
I could, but if like, I'm happy to do it, but also understand the idea of rotating leadership. So yeah. John, I see you waving your hand, but we can't hear you.
The other thing that the other thing that does is it messes up the rotation of someone who only has so many years to be chairman, who's behind you at least, and will be in line for that, and then it sets it back. So I just encourage you.
John, go ahead. I think you're in now. Can you hear us?
Yeah, but it was what I wanted to talk about happened a while back. I was just gonna suggest quickly to Doug that maybe if we had a list of recommendations made by the Parks Commission after each meeting, and also what council intended to do with them, acceptance or whatever. I don't know how you do it now, but to me, if we could see the next meeting we have, what the council recommended, I'd like to see that. So that's all I had on that. Sorry.
Thank you, John.
If I could say too, with the way the Zoom meetings are now, being chair, the sole duty of the chair is to run the meeting. And with it being on Zoom now, they also help with letting people in and unmuting them so they can speak and whatnot. So that's just an extra duty on top of running the meeting.
Oh, okay.
So comfortability with Zoom is good.
Yes.
The prerequisite.
So I don't want us to spin our wheels too long on this, but do we want to, like, how do we feel about recommendations for who's going to be chair and who's going to be vice chair?
I recommend John to be vice chair.
I'll do vice chair.
Okay. Are you on board with that, John?
Yeah, I'd be vice chair.
Okay. So does anyone want to second that motion?
I'll second that. Howard
Great.
seconds it.
Awesome. All those in favor of John being vice chair, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
No opposed. All right. That's our
Thank
recommendation.
you.
So now, chair. Who gets to be chair? Who wants to be chair?
Can't you just continue being chair?
I can if you guys want me to be, I will be, but also understand the passing on the leadership role. So anyone who wants to make a recommendation for whatever is fine with me.
Now, Jerry, how many years were you chair?
One, and
Just one.
I was happy to move on, but I enjoyed my year. Yeah,
Okay.
I like the idea of rotating. I really do. I think it's just a wonderful thing that Doug implemented.
I
I like
was
to
chair.
continue.
And I was chair 1 year also, just before Jerry,
Mhm.
you know, so I mean, eventually some of us may have to repeat, but at this time I don't have a full-size computer, so I don't even want to begin to go there, that I wouldn't be able to.
Why did it seem longer when Jerry was chair?
Why did it seem longer?
We all have our different styles. I'll take that as I was going to say a compliment, but probably not.
We got to do something, guys.
Somebody make a motion.
Yep, someone needs to do.
I make a
someone
motion
needs to
that
make
we
a motion.
keep Carmen as chair just this one time, and that the next time we most definitely will switch it up.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
I'm opposed to that.
That's fine. I get it. All right, does that pass though? I mean, is that in place? I don't know what the protocol is.
Majority
it.
vote.
Majority, okay. So then this goes to city council for approval, final approval, is that right? No? Oh, it just happens. It just is. Okay. So
Just
there we
is.
go. It just is. Sorry, Jerry.
Hey, I'm not unhappy. Hey,
I get it. I totally get it.
It's not personal, Carmen. You know
I
how
know. Even if it is personal, I can handle it. It's
it's
cool.
not personal. I gotta come over and get something from you too pretty soon.
Uh-oh.
So don't. So answer the door when I come over.
Okay. Bring your mask.
I will do.
Okay. All right. Next up on the agenda then is the Millard Road property. We started conversations on this last time. I said I would bring up the maps. I have those maps. I can share them. I'm not sure what exactly we want to accomplish, but I wanted to get it on the agenda just for more conversation about it. I will share my screen, I think. And then we can chat about it a little bit more. If I can find the right page. Okay. Are you guys seeing the map?
Yes.
Okay. So this is from one of our past agenda items. These were the maps that were presented to us, I believe, by Jenny. The master plan option 1 and master plan option 2. So I think last time our concern was that the city is taking steps to, is it to sell? What? To rezone the property or sell the property. Maybe someone can refresh my memory on where we left off on those conversations.
Well, I don't know if Doug would like to address this, but I did listen to the meeting on December 2nd. And where they were talking about selling properties, and the Millard property came up, or they called it the hospital property.
Mm-hmm.
And that part started at about 2 hours into the meeting. And it looks like they've already got offers. They know what the price would be. And it looks like they might have held it off for a while, but it was rezoned. So, and looking to, and Doug, go ahead and let me know if this is wrong, but it looks like they want low impact housing there with an arterial that would go out to Millard.
That could be. It's now it is zoned as mixed use. And mixed use opens up a ton of flexibility to what that property can be. There was some issue of getting it zoned as soon as possible. I don't know if the mayor pushed that agenda or not, but he was taken back that it was that the staff had brought this plan of an entire park forward to the council. And so it was rediscussed in, and I believe it was open session. There was quite a bit of discussion before it went to a council vote of zoning it a mixed use issue. Now, what's mixed use? As far as I'm concerned, it could be a park because a park is part of that mix. But mixed use basically is for buildings. It can be there can be commercial outlets there. There can be a number of residential things. There was talking about cottage clusters. All kinds of things. So it's up in the air as far as exactly any conceptual plans of what will be there. That's what I can say from a council point of view.
John, you have your hand up.
Yeah, when we talked about this at one of the Parks Commission meetings a while back, I think our recommendation, if I remember it correctly, was to keep, and the second one here, to keep that as a park plan, and that for the other to perhaps go to some use by senior, such as for assisted living or a nursing home type atmosphere. I would point out also, and I can't remember who went with me, but I went to a city council meeting a year or two ago when they were considering taking this property, which was owned by the school district, and giving it to the, I shouldn't say giving, but selling it at a less than market value use to the hospital district. When the hospital district went down, the property reverted back to the city. What didn't revert back was a piece of property that they traded him, and I never figured out why, over on Ross Road, which is just down below and to the left. There was a considerable piece of property. I can't remember exactly how big it is, but it was big enough for a 4-field softball complex, and that went to the school district in exchange for this property here. And we never received what I would consider adequate reimbursement for the money that we didn't get when they initially sold it. So the other portion of that is that the property on Ross Road was purchased with the idea of making it a park, and then it was turned over. Then through the manipulations of the city, it became this piece of property that went to the hospital district, and which we would inherit back, but we would not get back the property that we had originally for parkland down there, and had been purchased at a reduced price with the idea that it would be named by the guy that sold it to him. So there's
John,
it's not as simple as it sounds, but it's anyway.
John, this is Doug. And
Yeah, Doug.
Okay, one of the things, and I don't know if you recall this or not, but that was a heck of a fight, and I fought that all the way. And I was on Parks Commission at that time, and tried to stand up to the hospital committee and our planners, our city planner, who was also part of the hospital committee. And that's why that happened. It just, and the council, the council was in favor of it because there was pressure put on the council that were we in favor of a hospital or not? Well, I was in favor of keeping the parkland, and I was in favor of that kind of thing. And I kept that tact all the way through the argument. Even today, when we talked about the Millard Park property, I said that the Parks Commission has weighed in heavily about this being in maintaining a park in that area. And I couldn't agree more. And so that was, my testimony was something like that. And still, I've argued it whenever it comes up that, part of it needs to be a park. Well, at our last meeting, this could have been in executive sessions. I'm not certain, but so I can't share what happened in the executive session other than, no, I shouldn't even say anything about that other than that park area is still and wetland area is still an issue in that with that property. There is also, John, you will be very happy about this, is that the school district has possibly made some kind of concerns about there will probably not be a elementary school in that area. So that opens up that property that you alluded to, that we traded with the school district. So there's possibilities, most certainly, that could come back. So, it's all up in the air, and it's really too soon to do anything other than I would certainly entertain a recommendation to keep the status quo of what the Parks Commission had recommended in the first place. And that, and at this time, that's all you can do, I would think.
Yeah,
and that would help
so
me
too.
in my argument.
Would it
I
help?
think
Doug?
Jerry has his hand up also.
Well, I'm not going to add anything new to this. But a couple of years ago, when we were discussing this, the Parks Department unanimously thought this whole area should be used for the community. I personally think, and this is the same thing I said probably last meeting, that if we sell part of that property, I don't think our city is having a vision to the future.
Yes.
Because I think eventually that area is going to get developed into homes because there'll be sewer and water there. And there'll eventually, it might be 20 years, it might be 30 years. There's going to be a lot of homes out in that area. And this area, and there's only one major park that's west of Highway 30. And there's no major parks close to this area. So this could be a central area for the people that live in that area to come and recreate. It's a beautiful area. It has 2 wetlands. The lower part down there is in a floodplain. I just think, I know that Doug is really pushing for that, but so I've just encouraged Doug to, put that argument out that, let the people in the area, the individuals, sell their property to be developed, but the city keep this for the people of St. Helens. This belongs to the city of St. Helens, which is the people of St. Helens. And eventually, if we get rid of this, there's probably not going to be another big area out there available the city will buy. So we have it now. We need to keep it for the future because I think it'll pay great dividends down the line.
I'd like to say something.
Go ahead, Lynn.
All right. I agree with you totally, Jerry. And one thing, I live about almost a mile away from there.
Hey,
And as you said, we don't have any parks over in this area. And the land is actually, it's St. Helens property, but it's surrounded by the city of Warren residents. And and I believe it's going to be growing too. It's kind of like selling your seed corn, getting rid of it for your future. And I think that is really going to be appreciated down the road if that's made into a park, because it'll be someplace where all these people that Jerry is talking about will be coming to that area of Warren. We're in the urban growth boundary. And and plus I want to mention that I had a meeting actually with the Soil and Water Conservation District. They reached out to me because they would like to help us some way with Dalton. And we were talking about a citizen here that lives on McNulty Creek, right across from the property that you're talking about. And there's spawning coho in there. So I think there's a lot to be looked at here, because it wasn't actually, ODF&W did not have it in their reports because they didn't see the spawning happening at that time. When they get their data by sections, if they don't see that there, it's not put in the report. So here we've got a citizen that took videos of the spawning coho. So now what they want to do also is go up to the property owners and get information from them on what they're seeing upriver or upstream. So I volunteered to help with them a little bit on that if they needed help with neighbors that would allow them to come on the property and take a look at McNulty and the upper area where we live. So there is just so much that I think needs to be considered other than just a piece of property, because it's going to be really valuable to the people that live here in the future and now. And I think it was option number 1 that the Parks and Trails had voted on. And we all like the idea of having the park there on that side of the highway. And it'd be great for future generations to be able to enjoy that area. Plus educational.
Yeah. Thank you, Lynn. Howard?
Yeah, and I just want to remind everybody too, that area was actually all bought, wasn't it? Bought by the hospital tax, that not just the citizens of St. Helens, but a big chunk of the Columbia County residents were taxed for quite a few years to buy that piece of property that was given to the city. And I don't think the city should be making money off of it when it was a lot of the citizens and tax money that went to buy it. I think it should be turned into a pretty good sized park for that part of the town, and to give something back to the community that helped buy it, not just let the city of St. Helens make more money from selling the property. So I'd love to see a lot of it stay park. And once again, they don't make any more park property. And we got to be looking down the future for these areas. That's it.
You're correct. You're
Thank
correct,
you.
Howard, in that it was purchased with public money.
All right, there's a
Lisa?
contingency of people who really agree with that, and who have, there's been a big movement when the hospital property was in contention of who actually owned it, and the county, it went to the county, then the county by ordinance went, basically gave it to the city, because that was part of their policy. I don't think it was their ordinance, but it was their policy to do that. So
Doug,
yeah,
I think it was, might have
there
been
is a-
state law.
Yeah, there is a large group of individuals in the community who would like to see it to public use rather than private use. You're right.
Elisa, did you have something else to say?
Oh,
Earlier on.
I was just wondering if we got if the council got a lot of public comments from people that want to see it stay a park, not mixed use and not anything else, if that would help Doug convince the rest of the council.
Well, sometimes these items come up on the council because the council only meets once a month. And so we don't, so it's hard to anticipate when there'll be talks about that area. But I will certainly bring this up at the next council meeting, that you talked about this and that you support your original plan, the way, from what I hear. Maybe you might want to take a vote and make a recommendation again, but I would feel better about it going that direction. So if you want to do that, then I can bring it up at a council meeting, and things can start to kind of get a attention to that property again. Guess what? The council has changed. And I probably, I don't know where the vote would be on this, but I know that you'd get 2 votes for sure for the parks. And I have no idea where other things go. I shouldn't be saying these things, but the way I see the council is that myself, and I know another council member is pretty much self-assured that, we'd like to see more park areas. Jerry said it beautifully about what the direction and the insight for that area is all about. If we don't set aside parklands, that it isn't going to happen as the city expands. And that's the area that the growth is expected to facilitate in future years in that area around the fairgrounds and around that whole area. So anyway, I think it's a good point, and I think that if we own land, that we should really take a good look at the parks issue and how much land we have for parks in that area.
So should we go ahead and make a motion then?
I want to,
Jerry has his hand up. Let's let Jerry go, and then let's try to move forward with making a motion potentially.
yeah, I was going to make a motion too, but I'll let someone else make that. like I said before, it's just short-sighted. When this area gets developed and the city and the citizens out there want to park out there, it's going to cost a lot of money, to get the property. And this is really a nice piece of property. It has 2 mitigated wetlands on it, which I'm very familiar with. It also has the lower area down there. And I think not only it makes sense economically for the future.
So would someone, thank you, Jerry. Would someone like to make a motion? That kind of goes in line with what we've been talking about.
Sure. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Lisa. Go ahead. I'd rather somebody else made this anyway.
Oh, okay. I make a motion that we recommend to the city council that we go with our original recommendation and do the master plan option 1 for that property.
Should we put,
I'll second it.
Lisa, should we maybe mention some reasons why we think that's the case or not? Or just leave it at?
I feel like reasons are going to be too much for a recommendation, but maybe Doug, if it makes sense to have any of us come and talk about it, I don't know if it helps to have someone from Parks and Trails come and just discuss, or have us come at public comment, or to back it up.
Thanks, Carmen. I think the most effective way is to ask Sherry if she can email Kathy Payne and put this on the agenda, so it becomes an agenda item. And I think that that's all important to do. And if it's an agenda item, it will show up on future council meetings. And at that time, yes, I would encourage anyone from the Parks Commission to step forward, make any testimony at our council work session. The other thing is that if Sherry can do that, then she could include that map. And so that map could be in our packet as a discussion item for us, the council, to re-look at that area for the option number 1. So
Okay.
I think that's the way to proceed. And then, because if I just simply make a report and try to say that this was the recommendation, then it can be killed right away.
Yeah.
I know that. It happens all the time. Usually I make a report and say this, I'd really like to see this be an action item, and all of a sudden the room goes silent. So with no support. So this, if it's on the agenda, it makes a lot of sense to me.
Okay.
I come to the
I don't know
meeting.
if Sherry can help me out on that or not.
Kathy's probably going to want somebody to actually come and talk about it if it's on the agenda.
Exactly.
So
Who feels
I'll go.
comfortable going to talk about it? Yeah, John,
Jerry?
Okay.
I feel comfortable.
John and Jerry and Lynn.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay.
And I'll attend for moral support.
Right.
So we have Elisa's motion. Can we get someone to second it, and then we can vote on it?
I seconded it.
Oh, sorry. Seconded.
Yeah.
So in that case, all those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Perfect. All righty. Thank you all. Awesome. And Sherry, just let us know when it gets on the agenda, or I'm sure Kathy will let us know as well, but
Yeah, and can you send me those maps, Carmen?
yep, I will.
Thank you.
Yep.
Doug, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Hey, Doug, make sure you let me know when that is. because I'm not always electronically connected.
I'll trot across the woods and knock on your door.
Thanks, Doug. I'm looking forward to seeing you, by the way.
All righty, next up is Old Portland Road Path under new business. Do we
Okay,
have someone who owns that?
well, I think that was me that put that on there,
Perfect.
I just wanted to make a few comments and try to, get a little bit of discussion going on. That's a major walkway for people getting in and out of the downtown or the riverfront district. And over the years, I've been noticing, even back when I was on the Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee, I had some concerns about that path. And from talking to the city, I don't really think anything's going to be seriously upgraded there for many years. So I'm always concerned about seeing things that are degrading the path. There's getting to be a lot of moss in spots down by 4th Street and Old Portland. There's a house on the corner where they just put their sewer line right across it. And now you got about 7-8 feet of gravel on that path now. And a low spot when it rains hard that it floods. You've got a place where it's continuing to break down from where a gentleman drives a semi truck across it constantly that's loaded, unloaded. Right now that area is covered in a bunch of gravel. And there's another spot that the city put in a signpost at one time. And for some reason, that's down about 1.5 inches, like what they made it. So I just want to bring awareness to that path, that it's really a very important way for people to get in and out of that area. There's only kind of a path on one side of the street. There's several spots where laurels are starting to grow and encroach, a lot of leaves and that type of thing. So that was my main discussion on that. Does anyone else have any comments about that major path?
Is there some kind of action that you're thinking, Howard, that we could take to help?
Well, that's what I was wondering. I mean, do we need direction to start, trying to maintain it a little bit better? And, so it's a, slightly better walking path. That's why we're kind of the Parks and Trails Commission. So I thought I'd throw it out there and see what my fellow members think of that.
I'm just not familiar with that spot and what's going on with it. So I'll have to go and look before I can provide any real feedback on it.
Okay.
I don't know if anyone else has thoughts.
Howard, be a little more specific on where this is, because I'm confused.
When you come in past the recreation center, just beyond there a little ways, there's a path that's along as you're coming towards on Old Portland Road. There's a path along the right-hand side of Old Portland Road that's a footpath for people to use that goes from, God, is there some apartments? I'm trying to think of where it exactly starts.
Oh, I know where you're talking about. Yeah, I've been on that. Yeah, it's pretty beat up. Yeah.
Yeah, and so some of the spots, I want to say, I realize we don't want to put a lot of money into it, but we got to make sure that if it could be another 10 or 15 years before the next generation of that comes around, that we don't have that turn into a gravel path that's hardly usable, because once again, that's a major road and we need people to be able to walk safely, at least on one side or the other.
So is that a site? But my thinking is that's, obviously it can be a trail, I understand that, but Doug, maybe you should address maybe the city to use some of their sidewalk funds to improve that area if they so deem necessary, because it is pretty beat up in there. It's been
So Howie, I was going to ask you this: can you photograph that, because I've seen a lot of your photo images, and if you can photograph, I think it would help everyone to move forward on it.
Okay.
And
This
then
is more just to get us thinking.
Because I think it is a sense of importance, and now it's if everyone kind of agrees that it is important. I think from what I see, there's a lot of head nods. But if it is that important, we need a photograph, and then we can get up to a point where it'd be an action item, and I could report it to the council and ask if we could go ahead on that.
I'll get some photographs for our meeting next month.
Howard, can you put that on the next meetings, the agenda for the next meeting?
And then send any pictures that you have to Sherry so they can be included in the packet. Perfect.
Sounds easy. Sounds easy. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. So next up, we have old business. The first item is master plan list additions, which is kind of our standing item. I haven't heard anything come up in this meeting that would directly add to that, but is there anything anyone wants to add specifically?
Carmen, I've
Not
heard
at this-
talk about redoing the entire master plan and starting all over and doing all of that. And to me, I think that that's a ridiculous amount of waste of energy. I kind of think that Jen, when she designed the master plan, and it's in a 3-ring or it's in a binder, gave room for specific improvements as time goes on and specific insights for each of the parks. I can see making addendums, and don't worry about that it's going to take too much time for the council to hash over all this stuff, because it should be pretty simple and straightforward the way I see it. To redo something is going to take a lot of time, and it's going to remember, Jen, and it's going to.
Hello?
Are we there?
Jerry, if you're, are you talking? Oh, Howard
No.
or Jerry? Okay. I don't know
Okay.
what's going on there.
Oh, no, my
Sorry.
volume went away.
So it's just going to take an enormous amount of time and a lot of staff
what
time to
happened?
try to redo a master plan. And I think that by creating an agenda, we'll be on top of everything.
Okay. I know we've talked about master plan a lot before, and the feedback that we always get from staff is that, you know, it's on hold until we get results of the census, and then it's going to be revisited. So I'm not sure what else the Parks and Trails Commission can do. And that, Mohammed, you've got your hand up, so I'm going to let you talk about it.
Well, thank you for bringing this up, and Doug, thank you for explaining more about the master plan. So I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, so my role here in the Public Works Division also to revisit all these master plan that has been already initiated. I know there are little projects here and there, especially in the parks, that hasn't even either started or hasn't been done. And in my opinion, and background in project management, you know, some of those can be done, and depending on priorities. So I will be working hand in hand with our parks team and Public Works, and obviously the city council and everybody in this commission, hopefully to start prioritizing all these projects and start tackling those one by one, depending on where we stand in the master plan. So I have a lot of stuff, and this is one on my radar that I would like to approach, as I believe this commission is one of the most important to our communities, and parks obviously is one of the biggest things that everybody gets to enjoy and use in the community. So be patient. Things will change to and improve to better if it hasn't in the past. So just so you know, it's on my radar, and I'll be working with all of you to get all that stuff done.
Awesome. Thank you. Howard, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I lost a few seconds there. I had a glitch where I lost the volume and I couldn't hear you guys. But the main thing I wanted to bring up also about us talking about the master plan is that I think we need to pick a date for once a year that we take all of these things that we've been saying we'd like to see into the master plan or addendums to it, that we pick a date that like once a year that we collect these for a year, and then we pass them on to the city to hopefully see if there's a way to get them into the plan. So that's my suggestion.
So Mohammed, I wonder if that's something that maybe you can follow up with us on maybe in the next meeting when you've had kind of time to kind of find your ground on everything going on and status of master plan and everything, to see how we can make regular updates and what that should look like.
Absolutely. There will be changes coming to the
Okay.
parks and recreation programs we have very soon, positive changes. So stay tuned. And Howard, to your point, sometimes, you know, there are a lot of aspects that plays a role right into the master planning. And I'm not sure if you're aware of, you know, certain rules and regulation. Obviously, if something is not in the master plan, when it comes to funding and resources, it's not as simple as picking something up and add it to the master plan and get it done. So there are a lot of behind the scenes, obviously, rules, regulations that we have to abide by, just so you know.
Oh, yeah.
The goal is to really work on current status, right? What we have in the current master plan. Those should be updated every 5 years period. I'm not sure what's the history. I've seen some plans are older and some plans are not as old. So we have obviously big projects in the parks like McCormick Playground that's up and running and it's on the master plan. And that's middle now of the project. So we're trying to push to make sure we get that done by spring. So, but depending on the project scope and capacity and the resources we have here. So I will be digging a lot of these. Next, hopefully we'll have more up on where we are and I'll try to update you as we move forward regularly.
Yeah, that's just it. We've been over the last year or so. We've been every month we ask for a few more things to add to it. And so I was just want to make sure at some point that there's a way to, yeah, I know there's not funding for it, but just so that we know there's a way for it to get into it or something like that.
I'm looking forward.
That's it.
Yep. We'll move better, promise.
Awesome, thank you. Next on the agenda is Parks and Rec program updates.
Carmen,
Shauna. Oh,
Carmen,
sorry, Jerry.
got my
Go ahead.
hand up.
Sorry, my screen just changed on my Zoom.
This question's for Doug. So Doug, is the urban trail in the master plan or is it going to be presented to be included in the master plan shortly?
The answer to that is yes, that the council approved the urban trail and it will move forward through however the staff foresees that getting into the master plan or whatever needs to happen. It's in the hands of the staff at this point. Did I answer your question?
You did. So Doug, again, this is the same thing as about the Millard property. When the city starts discussing that, could you let me know? Because I don't always check. I'd like to be involved in their discussions if they want people there.
Is that for the urban trail?
Yes.
You're talking
And
about?
also,
It's
yes.
done. It's
But
done.
I mean,
you guys
but-
made a great plan and the city was very favorable for it. And as those key areas that you had pointed out that need improvements in the urban trail, yeah, you can be involved in all the steps of the way.
well, there'll probably be some public testimony, wouldn't you think?
I would think, but it seems to me like we've had, I don't know, I'll have to refer back to Carmen, but I've heard a lot about the urban trail and how you're going to go about what needs to happen in terms of time sequences. So Carmen can fill in the rest of that if she wants.
Well, I know Thad said that, we represented the public. That was his
Yeah.
comment.
I don't know what next steps are for the urban trail. That was going to be one of my items that I asked about was kind of how do we get involved with the staff who ends up working on that, or will they reach out when the time comes, or how can we help continue that project moving forward? And Mohammed, it looks like you unmuted, so you might have some updates.
Yeah. So that would be something I'll bring you an update on for next meeting that we have together.
Great.
Full scope on where we are, where we stand, the sequence of next movement tasks, project timeline as well.
Perfect.
Yeah, I put a note down for myself. So next one will be plenty of good information to share with you guys. That probably will be very helpful for a lot of your questions.
Great. Thank you, Mohammed. Does that help Jerry and Doug?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
Thanks, Mo.
All righty, Shauna, you're up next. Parks and Rec updates.
I'm going to keep it short and sweet, but we have some programming going on. You're welcome to go onto the website and look at it all. We have it all kind of sectioned off, like for if it's for families or for youth or etc. We're launching a scavenger hunt tomorrow. So if you go around the parks and you see these gnome looking things, they're fine. They're part of the rec program scavenger hunt. So don't be alerted. But we're going to do a gnome takeover in the parks for the next 8 weeks, and the kids go and look for them. And we've had a lot of success with our outdoor scavenger hunt type things. I have a grant that's pending that I've heard a little bit back from, so I'm really hopeful that we get it. And what it will do is give us a nature trailer that we can take to the different parks and do activities with the kids and such. So I'm really keeping my fingers crossed for that. And then we just are softly doing things in the parks. And then as soon as we can get the building open and start doing stuff in person is our goal. So there's some walking groups going on. There'll be some sports stuff in the parks. So if you need any more information, email me, or you can go on the website to find it out there. We keep our Facebook pretty updated as well. So please follow that and share things. And we get about 8,000 engagements a week right now, which is pretty big for how big our city is. People are really looking for things to do. So please pass on the info. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Shauna. Any questions for Shauna? All righty. Next up is Dalton Lake updates.
Okay. Well, I was going to give kudos to Public Works on the signs that they put up at the wetlands for Dalton. I was gone for about 5 days, taking a little vacation. I got a phone call, several phone calls from Columbia City folks. And so we talked quite a while about things. And I come to realize that there is a misunderstanding. There has been for a number of years that is actually ODOT property, and that we have a cooperative management agreement since 2009 there, the city of St. Helens. And so we did a lot of talking, but I want to tell you that I thought the signs look really good. The first one, there's 2 signs, well, 4 total, but they put them in alternate order. And one says nature preserve, do not disturb, with the brown background. And the second one says no dumping allowed, the city of St. Helens. So that actually I thought looked really good with what had happened in the past with letting them know it's a wetland area, that we didn't want the cuttings of the grasses there, that we're going to be replanting wetland native species. So I personally thought it would look good. And one of the fellas told me that he thought there must be 8 or 9 signs there. So when I got back from the coast, I went down there to take a look. So I was pretty pleased. So I just wanted to tell you that. And any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, Lynn.
Okay.
Hey, you know, Doug mentioned that, you know, there might be a survey down there, but I know earlier, 3 or 4 months ago, I think you showed us some pictures of a person who'd planted a lawn and a hedge that was on ODOT property.
No, I didn't send those pictures. That was done by Sue.
So
Yeah, she had taken some pictures when they had the survey done.
So what's your thinking on that if the people have a lawn and a hedge on ODOT property? What's your thinking on that? Or you don't have to answer me now if you don't want to, you know, you can do that next time.
Wouldn't that be up to city staff to determine kind of next steps for how to handle that?
Well, my thoughts are we have always tried to be good neighbors. And I think, and I was told by some of these people that the developer told them they had all this land and they had different property lines. And then another person said a real estate person told them this. And so there's a lot of misinformation that had happened over the years. And I've had a lot of phone calls with some of the citizens from not only the estate or homeowner association, but just people that live along Fourth, and they hadn't been really informed. So what I was going to suggest to the Parks and Trails, to see what you thought, was developing a letter with our city communications person, and finally getting a letter out, letting the homeowners know that have adjacent properties all around Dalton, that this is now preserved, that it's, give the information that they need to have. And so there isn't some fear there isn't some misunderstanding. And anyway, I think it's probably a good thing to do. And it would quell some of those questions, and they'd know who to go to if they did have questions. So,
Well, Lynn, the concern, my position last time was, I understand this is ODOT property and people need to respect people's property. If it's someone else, you shouldn't be on it. However, if these people's lawn and hedge is just a little bit on ODOT property, I'm for saying, hey, you can go ahead and keep that or leave it as it is. I don't know if that's legal, but the final decision is actually up to you, Lynn. But that's kind of my, and the Friends of Dalton Lake and the city. I know it's a lot of people, but that's kind of the way I look at it. If it's not infringing very much.
I just want to weigh in. Are you done, Jerry?
Done.
I just want to weigh in on this. We got to remember that this is not our property. This is ODOT property. And what does ODOT expect? They expect good management on this property. It's not ours unless we ask for it and start a campaign to obtain that property. So with that being said, the Division of State Lands is the people who oversaw the wetland mitigation and facilitate that being a wetland. So we're dealing with the state, and all of a sudden it comes back on our shoulders in our Parks Commission. I think we're overstepping our boundaries a bit, and so I think we need to kind of back up and see what the Department of Transportation has to say, as well as the Division of State Lands, which I think will probably get handed off to sooner or later, to find out what the violations were. And if it is indeed going in and cutting willows and cutting those kinds of things, then that could be severe. I have no idea. All I know is I was involved in an intensive wetland mitigation, and we were asked to put up a 6 foot to 7 foot cyclone fence to keep individuals out of there, and that would be there as for many years after the process was evaluated and deemed a success. So I don't know where we're at in this. It opens up a can of worms in terms of what we're going to do and what we're going to allow. That's what gets me. What do we allow on someone else's property? And is that okay to do that? So I kind of think that it needs to we need to find out what the citizens of Columbia City want. And when we get that defined, what we can do with going forward, and does the state get involved? Okay, so that's my deal. I hate to say what I just said, but I said it, and I kind of think that it is a state issue as well as a city issue, as well as a friends issue of the preserve. It's starting to get complicated.
I don't think it's getting complicated, but you can also look at the cooperative management agreement, and it actually addresses all those things that we're talking about now. So, which was signed back in 2009. But I was wondering what you think about a letter being sent out to the property owners, because there's some that have no residence on that property that we're interested in getting access to. In fact, that's our priority. The advisory committee met on the 30th, and that's our priority, and it has been for the last year, to get access on the trails that have been going into the southern portion of the preserve, which was in our original proposal. So if that letter goes out, then at least the property owners that have that access going through their property would know that that is a preserve.
Go ahead, John.
Lynn, do you think it might be a good idea to wait until after your meeting with those folks and then draft the letter? See where they're clear and unclear about stuff, and then draft the letter and address those concerns. Otherwise, if you know what.
Yeah, we can do that, but I'm talking about the whole perimeter. That means the southern side too, which is St. Helens.
I would agree that having the conversations first might be best, just to get perspective from some of the homeowners who came and talked today. I think using that perspective in the drafting of a letter would make sense, so that the city is not being insensitive to the people who have homes that border Dalton Lake.
It would basically be
Suggestion.
letting them know what happened. You know, it's not about the rules or anything like that. It'd be a simple letter stating that this became a preserve in October 2019, and this is what we're hoping for in the future, and da da da. So
How
it
does
wouldn't
our attorney feel?
What was that, John?
How does our attorney feel about this?
Oh, that's one of the things that I was hesitant about thinking about. Okay, the state can very easily become involved in this, and we don't know that, even though that we have that agreement. Is that totally clear on what we do and how we do it? I'm not quite certain, because Jerry brought up the point is that are we going to allow that private property owner to plant a hedge and start to landscape that area? And so that's already been done, and grandfathering that in, is that okay with the state? I have no idea, but somebody's got to go further research before we make a cut and dry decision. You want the Parks Commission to make the okay. Anyway, so John, I think you brought up a good point about has the attorneys been involved on this? And I think that might be the next step.
Yeah, I feel like this goes beyond the Parks and Trails Commission scope, and there needs to be involvement of city staff to have the appropriate conversations. But does anyone else have anything to add?
I would say let's just get the meeting going with the homeowner association, Mike, or the neighbors. Let's see what they want, first of all. I don't recommend getting lawyers involved at this point. We're not out of place.
Yes.
We really need to fight anything. And as Doug mentioned, I'll back you up on the state, right? We have to be respectful of the property, and we have limitations according to the agreement that Lynn just mentioned. So let's not get too excited. Let's see what's the neighborhood like. It might be a simple fix as, those signs, if they're tall enough, we can lower them a little bit. That's an option on the table versus, take them off completely, because there is, again, a lot of this stuff right away of the city. We're responsible for this part. There could be worse options, like building a fence, just like Doug mentioned, 7-8 foot, and it will go through their property, and that's gonna make it even worse. So is that a preferable, right? So let's see what they say. And as you mentioned, Carmen, this is not necessarily a Parks and Commission, but I like the idea of if we have potential impacts or projects moving forward from public works like that in a property like this type, we should have at least send a letter to the neighbors, let them know what's going on, rather than wake up one day and there's a shock of like, whoa, I have a sign in my backyard. And this should have probably been communicated better, if you would ask me. But however, let's not look at the past. Let's move forward with them.
Mhm.
And be positive along the way, because,
So would you suggest, Doug, that I move forward with the communications officer here for the city and draft something just to let people know it's now preserved and it's, you're bordering on the property? It's a simple letter.
I think that's would be the most appropriate course of action for now.
Okay.
And everything should go. We established a new system within the city website where residents can go by department and ask questions if they have questions and stuff, and it comes directly to the right individual, which anything in public works now can come to me if there is an issue like that. To come to my attention, we can pay a lot more attention faster to it. And then we also need to be proactive. Obviously, if there is something that the resident don't know, we can initiate through our communication channels to let them know through our communication officer as well.
Sounds good. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see. So the second priority we had now for this coming year is getting a new map. And so we'll probably contact planning because they already have an established map that will cut out the trails that we can't access that was on the old map and put some trail names there so that we could get that on the kiosk. Every trail that I've ever been on, including last week, they have some kind of map that shows you where you are, what the trail name is, how long it is, and where it's located. So I think that's something that we're ready to go forward with.
Can you report back to us on that too, Lynn? I think it would be great if you guys are setting kind of standards for Dalton Lake and that process so that we can replicate that process in other parks and other areas.
Okay, great. And let's see here. Oh, are we still following the Friends of the Parks programs that was brought to our attention and done by Matt Brown? Are we still going with that? And
it's
is
on the
that
website?
Yes. Okay. So we need to report as a Friends group on the number of hours we worked. That's listed in there to the city council. Has anybody else done that yet, Howard?
Howard does that.
Mhm.
And they just report it every 6 months or so, and it's welcomed. And we thank you.
Yep.
Goes to Public Works.
We
Just to
mentioned
Public
it.
Works?
Like Doug said it.
So
Well, we send it to everyone. We send it to everyone. We send it to Doug and the Crystal and stuff, just so the city can make a record of it, because sometimes with those times that you do, if you're getting grants for other things, sometimes you got to have those times recorded so that it's what do they call that, in kind for some of the grants. So yes.
okay, so I'll go ahead. I made a spreadsheet earlier in the year and I've got all the information, so I'll send it to Doug and Mohammed.
And make certain
Crystal?
Sherry
Sherry.
has a copy.
Okay. Will do. What about the social media update? So we have a Facebook page for the Friends of Dalton Lake Nature Preserve. Are we still able to use that at this time? Or is that going to be transferred over to the city? Do you have any update on that, Doug?
Yes, transfer it over to the city. Make certain before you post anything on Facebook or Twitter or do anything like that, make certain that you check with our communications officer, Crystal King.
Okay. Oh, and one last thing, there is a CREST update. I got a email from Jason Smith. And he said by the end of February, we'll have several analysis to choose from and to discuss in a Zoom meeting. And it looks like they got all the data in. And so that's what they're accumulating right now. And it should be about the first part of February where you're going to get an invite. Mohammed, I know you will, as well as Doug.
Good. And can you update everyone? Just remind everyone what CREST is all about, other than brush our teeth.
Oh. Okay.
Good on crackers.
What's the acronym mean?
Okay, CREST is Columbia River Estuary Study Task Force.
Thank you.
And they've got quite a history up and down the Columbia River where they've gone and researched where areas are, they're able to reconstruct and connect some of the lakes or the wetland areas to have a resting place for salmonid smolts. So that's what they're doing. They actually hired a contractor, Wolf Water Resources, and they're doing the analysis. So, and that's been going on for about 4 months. So that's
Thank you, Ann.
yes.
Thank you. Does it make sense to have that on the March meeting for us, or is that more of a outside of the commission conversations?
Oh, no, because they're working in Dalton. So yeah,
Okay.
I could give an update.
Okay, great. Any other
Lynn?
updates, Lynn?
Lynn, I know you know this, but Harry Lake used to come out where Brownlow's Beach is.
Yes. I know, isn't that amazing? That's when we first talked, I had to tell him it's not pristine. The area. It's been changed quite a bit. But that's it for
Alright.
Dalton.
Okay,
Unless
that
anybody's got any
is
questions.
the last item for old business. Are there any other discussion items that people would like to talk about before we adjourn? Howard, go
Move we
ahead.
adjourn.
Sorry, Howard has some updates.
Just a hair. I mean, we did have a very neat meeting with, I very much enjoyed meeting Mohammed the other day with the Watershed Council and stuff. The Watershed Council is proceeding with getting bids and stuff for doing some control of ivy and blackberry and stuff along the new Fifth Street right away. So that was really neat getting to meet a bunch of different people. My other question is, once again, especially hearing that we talked about putting the signage in over at Dalton Lake about dumping. I know you guys are tired of me bringing it up, but we still have a bad problem with people dumping at the top of Great Cliffs. It's continually going on. There's more than ever at the top. We've also, in the last month or so, there was a slide on the new trail that goes up the hill from the lower part of Great Cliffs up to the top. And now when you really walk up there and it's wintertime, you can see all the debris that these people are dumping over the top. I mean, they're throwing yards and yards of yard debris over the top of the cliff above the trail.
Howard, there's a sign.
I'm
There's
sorry,
a sign
is there a
that says
chance we can get?
no dumping.
What's that?
I said, there's a sign that says no dumping you can put there. City of St. Helens.
Well, that's it. I was wondering if it's time for the city to put a few signs in the other area, because actually you go to the very end of that road and there's a sign and the people there are still continuing to dump even though there's a sign. But I think this other area between where the trail comes up and kind of back towards the city, it covers probably almost 40 to 40 to 50 feet that they're going and just dumping all types of yard debris over the edge. And that's an area that I could see eventually that we'd want to try to come up with some type of plan on how to try to get rid of the blackberries once again in a city park and stuff. But as long as people are dumping, there's not even the beginning thought of how can we get rid of the other stuff. You know what I mean? So is there a chance we get some signs up there?
I would say we should learn from what we had happen today, where we put signs up and then we had people show up at our meeting asking about it, and start with maybe a letter or something to the residents, or reaching out to the residents that live on that street in that area, and see if we can resolve it that way. Rather than just putting signs up. Otherwise, people are they're going to show up at our meeting and be like, we have signs in our view now.
I've talked to code enforcement 2 or 3 times, as you guys have suggested. I provided code enforcement with pictures of a guy actually dumping over the edge. And that was probably 2 to 3 years ago. So it's an ongoing problem that I really think somehow we need to start addressing, because to me, it was starting to look pretty shabby to see that much yard debris every year. I'm talking probably 4 or 5 yards get dumped over the cliff each year in that area. And that's a lot of load on a cliff above our trail. And I'm afraid that eventually it's going to start affecting the trail.
Carmen, good advice. I think that communication is needed, and it depends on what type of communication. So I like the idea of addressing the council to possibly draft some letters in that area if possible. But we need to identify the area.
Okay. Well, I mean, basically,
you can help with that when it comes time to do that, Howie.
Okay, well, I mean, the time's here. So how do what's our next step to get something moving on it?
Identify the area.
What?
Identify the area.
Okay. Across from 225 was that River Street up there. There's probably about 50 yards or 50 feet or more along the base of the cliff right there that's getting dumping. And the other hot spot is beyond that, where the sign says no dumping. The people there are continuing to dump, throw out old potted plants, which could become invasive species in our parks and that type of thing. So there's
once again, before that goes to council, and before we put out that kind of communication, we need I think if you can get a map, and if you can outline on the map what the area is, then that's what I mean by identifying the areas and identifying people or the residences that needs to go to. That's all I meant by that. And if you have some homework to do, that'd be great.
Okay.
Sounds good. So it sounds like maybe next meeting for that, we can make a recommendation to get some letters out or something.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Howard. Any other updates?
Yes.
Thad? Hi, Thad.
Well, it's kind of a good one. I met with the playground people and we staked out the playground.
Awesome.
And it is enormous, to say the least. And I think I'm really excited about when we can get working on this. Of course, it'll be this spring, most likely by the time they get everything built and before we can start. We will have to remove a couple trees, but nothing more than that should be in our way to do all this. And it really is kind of a fun looking forward to putting up the new playground.
Great.
I know everybody here's been long overdue for it, and we are too.
Huge thank you, Thad. That's awesome. Super
Carmen,
exciting.
I have a quick question for Thad. What's the situation on the playground equipment at Godfrey Park?
Well, we still don't have a totally set plan. As soon as we get a set plan, and after the McCormick project's done, I think we can jump right in on that one, as long as we have funding.
That was going to be my question. I thought that was already funded. It's not.
Well, I think it is, or it was supposedly funded. But we never really got a set plan as to the fall protection and how big the areas are and everything else. And, you know, with the McCormick thing going on, that's our top priority.
President, okay.
First, yeah. Anybody else have any questions of me? All right, Carmen, I guess it's all yours.
All righty, thanks, Thad. Any other questions or items for discussion before we adjourn? Awesome. Thank you all. Sorry it was such a long meeting. And we will talk at our next meeting
All right.
on
Take care.
February 8th, I believe. Thanks, everybody.
Good to see
Good
everyone.
night.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.